My parents stole $30,000 from me, then laughed it off, calling it family duty. So I cut them off. Now they're homeless, begging for mercy. My birthday was just around the corner. I'd planned to finally take some time off, maybe even escape to somewhere warm. I hadn't had a real vacation in years, but overnight, my entire savings cushion vanished. I immediately called the bank to dispute the charges, hoping it was some elaborate scam. Yet, as the kind representative on the line informed me, the charges were authorized by me, verified by signatures and PIN. Except, I hadn't bought anything. I walked into my small apartment's living room, my heart pounding with a mix of fury and bewilderment. Then it hit me. My parents were the only two people who had access to my information. I grabbed my phone and called my dad. He answered on the second ring, his voice unusually calm. "Hey, son, everything okay?" I gritted my teeth. "My credit card is maxed out, Dad, nearly $30,000. Do you know anything about that?" A heavy, suffocating silence filled the line. "Well," he finally responded, his tone shifting to defensive. The family needed it more. "You'll be fine. Aren't you doing well enough? You make good money." My blood began to boil. "You used my credit card." "It's not like that," he snapped, his voice rising. "You always act like your money is just yours. We're family. Sometimes compromises have to be made." Before I could retort, I heard my mother's voice in the background. She chuckled, as if it were all a big joke. "Honestly, you don't need a big birthday trip. We had better plans for that money this year. You can celebrate alone." For a fleeting moment, the world seemed to tilt. My breath came in sharp, shallow gasps. I'd worked 2 jobs all through college, saved relentlessly, skipped nights out, vacations, new clothes, and now this. I swallowed the lump in my throat and forced my voice to be steady. "Then don't ever call me again." I hung up before my father could launch into another entitled excuse. That night, as city lights flickered through my window, I sat at my laptop, accessing every account they never expected me to touch. The joint mortgage I'd co-signed terminated. The truck loan I'd co-guaranteed for my father terminated. My mother's personal line of credit tied to my name canceled. I did it, all in silence. No shouting, no explanations, just cold, calculated clicks. This wasn't about revenge. It was time to draw a line I should have drawn years ago. They wanted to know what life would be like without me. They were about to find out, not out of cruelty, but because letting them continue had nearly destroyed me. You're probably wondering how I got here, how a grown man with a stable job ended up being bled dry by his own family. It didn't happen overnight. That's the sickening part. They were patient, strategic. My parents saw it as a victory when I landed my first real job, an entry-level financial position right out of college. "We sacrificed everything for you," my father would constantly remind me. "You owe us. Without us, you wouldn't have that degree." My mother would add, "All we ask for is a little help, you know? Family helps family." At first, they were small requests. A few hundred here to help with property taxes, a couple thousand there for my sister's emergency dental surgery. Dad's old truck broke down. Could I co-sign on a new one? Mom's credit card was temporarily maxed out. I told myself it was fine, temporary. After all, they raised me. This is what a good son does, right? But what was supposed to be temporary became permanent. My father eventually expected me to cover their mortgage shortfalls. My mother stopped even pretending to pay me back. My younger sister, Sorrel, the golden child, quit her job entirely to find herself and pursue creative passions, while I quietly took over her student loan payments to prevent her credit from tanking. My mother once airily said, "You make 6 figures," as if it meant nothing. We're not asking for much. 6 figures, sure, but after taxes, rent, and their endless emergencies, my bank account looked like it belonged to a fast food cashier. I watched my friends buy houses, invest, and travel. I stayed in my cramped apartment, eating takeout, convinced I was building a future, while actually emptying myself for theirs. Then it got worse. My father lost his job 2 years ago after getting caught embezzling from his company, something I only found out after I'd already loaned him about $40,000 to help him through a difficult time. "It's just temporary, son," he promised, his voice thick with false humility. "Once I'm back on my feet, I'll pay you back in full." He never got back up. Instead, He and my mother continued to drain me dry. My credit cards gradually became their emergency fund. They started using my identity on loan applications without telling me, forging signatures, sweet-talking bank managers, whispering, "Our son will cover it if anything goes wrong," and Sorrel. She put on an award-winning performance of deceptive smiles and empty promises. The helpless princess charged my accounts for new iPhones, luxury spa getaways, and yoga teacher training programs. "I'll pay you back once my influencer career takes off. Please be patient, okay?" Every time I tried to set boundaries, they retaliated with their usual weapons of guilt and shame. "Do you want your father to lose his house? How can you be so selfish when your sister's mental health depends on this retreat? After everything we've done for you, you've changed. Money has made you cold." The true breaking point came last month. I finally said no when my mother asked me to cover a $15,000 business loan for Sorrel's boyfriend, a deadbeat who claimed to be an entrepreneur, but couldn't hold a job for more than 3 months. My father exploded. "You're ruining this family," he yelled across the dinner table. "What kind of son are you?" My mother started crying on cue. Sorrel ran upstairs, slamming doors like a wounded teenager. "She's 26. Not a word, not anymore." Because that night, after everyone went to bed, I checked my credit card and found the $30,000 bill sitting there, ready to consume me. They hadn't even asked. They simply helped themselves. I knew the explosion was coming. I just didn't expect it to happen so quickly, or in such a vicious way. My phone started vibrating non-stop the morning after I canceled everything. 27 missed calls, 15 voicemails, hundreds of texts, some pleading, some yelling, some filled with scorching rage. By noon, they were waiting for me. When I pulled into the parking lot after work, my dad and Sorrel stood like vultures by the entrance to my building. My father's, the face was already crimson with fury. My mother's cheeks were streaked with crocodile tears. Sorrel had her arms crossed, radiating pure entitlement. I barely had time to latch my car door before my father charged, his finger jabbing the air like a weapon. "What did you do?" he demanded, spitting as he spoke. "You destroyed us, you selfish fool." I didn't flinch. Not this time. I protected myself, I responded, my voice cold. "Something none of you ever bothered to do for me." "The bank called this morning," he said. "The mortgage is frozen. The truck's been repossessed. Your mother's credit cards are locked. What gives you the right?" "The right," I scoffed. "You stole from me. Forged my name on loans, maxed out my credit cards. I spent years covering for your mistakes. Now you can deal with the consequences." "We're family," my mother wailed. "How can you do this to your own parents?" Her voice cracked like glass, but her eyes remained icy and manipulative, the same eyes that had guilt-tripped me my entire life. "Family doesn't steal," I snapped. "Family doesn't lie. Family doesn't use me like an ATM." Sorrel finally spoke, her voice dripping with disdain. "Oh, please," she scoffed. "You're being so dramatic. You make good money. You weren't even using most of that credit. We just needed a little help." $30,000 isn't a little help," I yelled, my voice echoing. "Off the skyscraper. You drained my savings. You destroyed my credit. You took my future and helped yourselves to it like I owed you my entire life." I wasn't angry. I was exhausted. I finally said it aloud. Sorrel rolled her eyes like a petulant teenager denied a toy. "God, you act like you're some saint. You wouldn't even have that job if Dad hadn't pushed you. We gave you everything." "No," I growled. "You took everything, and I let you, but not anymore." My father stepped closer, his face inches from mine, his voice dropping to a low, menacing growl. "You think you're better than us now? You think you're too good for your family. You're nothing without us. You'll regret this." "No," I said quietly. "The only thing I regret is not cutting you off sooner." His face contorted, veins bulging at his temples. "You owe us. We gave you life, and you spent it like it was your bank account." I shot back. "I worked 2 jobs through college while Sorrel took spa trips. I lived in a shoebox while you bought Dad his 3rd truck. Every time I got ahead, you found new ways to pull me back down." "Enough." My mother's voice turned harsh, hysterical. "We're your parents. You're supposed to take care of us." "I'm not your retirement plan," I replied, my voice as hard as steel. "I'm not your bailout. I'm not your slave." Neighbors began to gather, heads peeking from windows, doors slightly ajar. Curious faces watching the family drama unfold in broad daylight. The final act of manipulation followed, as if on cue. My mother collapsed to her knees on the concrete, sobbing loudly for maximum effect. "Please," she cried, "if you walk away, we'll lose everything. The house, Dad's health, Sorrel will be homeless." "Then maybe Sorrel should get a job," I stated honestly. "Maybe Dad should stop living beyond his means, and maybe you should finally take responsibility for the mess you created." "You heartless monster," Sorrel shrieked. "We are your family. We need you." I shook my head, looking at them intently for the first time. "No, you don't need me. You need my money. You need my credit. You need someone to clean up after your endless failures. But you never needed me. You never even saw me as a person, only as a wallet." My father pushed forward, his voice trembling beneath the strain of his rage. "We made you." "No," I replied softly. "You broke me, but I finally put myself back together. Without you." And then I delivered the ultimate blow. "Don't ever call me again. Don't knock on my door. Don't text me. Don't pretend we're family, because as far as I'm concerned, you never were." The silence that followed was deafening. For a while, all three of them just stood there, blinking, as if I had spoken in a foreign language they didn't understand. Then, I turned, walked past them, and into my building, leaving them humiliated, powerless, and finally cut off in that parking lot. That night, for the first time in years, I didn't have nightmares. I was free. I assumed the storm had peaked. That day in the parking lot, I was mistaken. That was only the beginning. When I cut them off financially, their entire house of cards collapsed almost immediately. The mortgage company froze my parents' loan within 4 days after my name was removed from the documentation. Their month-long failure to make payments resulted in an outright default. By the end of the week, they had an official foreclosure notice. My childhood home, which they had weaponized for years as a symbol of family sacrifice, was up for auction in less than 60 days. I didn't even need to lift a finger. The system handled it for me. My father's beloved vehicle, the $70,000 behemoth he couldn't live without, vanished at dawn one morning. The tow truck arrived silently. The repo man barely made eye contact as my father stormed barefoot onto the driveway in his tattered bathrobe. "You can't take my truck," my father yelled, as if his outburst would erase the debt. But there was nothing left to save him. By week 2, my mother's phone calls had morphed from rage to hysteria. "We're going to lose everything." She sobbed on voicemail when I stopped responding to her desperate calls. "Your father's blood pressure is through the roof. Your sister has nowhere to go. What kind of son lets this happen?" I deleted every message without listening beyond the first sentence. Then Sorrel showed up. I knew she would. She looked different, smaller, paler, with dark circles under her eyes that matched the fake designer purse dangling uselessly off her arm. The air of arrogance had vanished. Now there was just desperation. "Please," she cried, standing at my front door, mascara streaked down her cheeks like smeared battle paint. "You can't just abandon us. You know how bad it's gotten?" I said nothing. "You know I was just following Mom and Dad," she cried. "I didn't mean for things to go this far. But I'm your sister. Please, just for a little while." I stared at her. For several long seconds, for the first time in my life, I felt nothing. No pity, no guilt, no sense of obligation. "I'm done, Sorrel," I stated firmly. "Go home if you still have one." "You can't be serious," she said softly, her voice breaking. "You're my brother." "No," I replied, my voice as hard as iron. "I was your bank, and I'm closed." Security removed her 15 minutes later. She tried again. Texts, DMs, voice messages, filled with sobbing, swearing, and bargaining. She even sent distant relatives after me to beg on her behalf. Just help them get back on their feet. "They're still your family. You're being cruel." Cruel was taking every penny from my accounts. While smirking in my face, Cruel was forging my signature behind my back. Cruel was smiling as I skipped birthdays, vacations, and romances to fix their endless mistakes. Let them face the consequences. By the end of the month, their beautiful world had disappeared. They relocated to a small 2-bedroom apartment. Across town, far from the idyllic utopia they had lorded over everyone. The eviction was public. Neighbors whispered. Their friends vanished. My father lost what remained of his fragile ego. The man who used to bark orders like a king was now struggling to make ends meet with part-time handyman work. His blood pressure spiked. His health deteriorated rapidly without the meds he could no longer afford. Mom tried to keep up appearances. For a while, posting old photos on Facebook and pretending everything was normal, but even the fake smiles cracked quickly. The debt collectors didn't stop calling. Sorrel's dreams of becoming an influencer were completely shattered without my money to fund her carefully curated lifestyle. Her audience disappeared. She bounced from couch to couch, relying on fleeting friendships that dissolved the moment she couldn't afford breakfast or split rent. One day, she tried to contact me through an old friend. "She's in bad shape, man," my friend admitted, visibly uncomfortable. "She's practically homeless." "Maybe you should know," I interrupted. "I've done enough," because that's something they never understood. They assumed I was weak because I kept giving. But the truth is, I had the strength to finally stop. And once I did, they crumbled from the weight of their own entitlement. Meanwhile, my life officially began. I bought my own home, a modest but beautiful condo, fully paid, completely mine. The peace within those walls was incomparable. For the first time in nearly a decade, I wasn't concerned about anyone else's survival. I traveled for the first time, actual travel, not canceled plans or family emergencies. Iceland, Italy, Japan. I stood beneath the northern lights, breathing in fresh air that no longer smelled of shame. Therapy became my anchor. I unpacked years of emotional manipulation, guilt-tripping, and financial enslavement. My therapist once said something that stuck with me. "You never had parents. You had leeches dressed as parents." And it was true. One message finally broke the stillness. A message from Sorrel's ex-boyfriend. "Dude, I know everything now. They never deserved you. I'm sorry it took me so long to see it." I smiled, reading that. Not out of vindication, but out of serenity. Because, for the first time in my life, I wasn't the antagonist. I was free. It's interesting how stillness used to terrify me. For years, quiet signaled the storm was brewing. Another call, another crisis, another financial trap disguised as remorse and family obligation. Now, silence feels liberating. The weight that has pressed on my chest for years is gone. No more calls, no more screams, no more begging, no more manipulation. Just peace. I sit on my balcony every night now. I have my own place, my own money, my own choices. The city lights stretching before me, a constant reminder that I survived. I no longer feel angry, that burned out a long time ago. What remains is clarity. For years, I was indoctrinated to believe that my worth was defined by how much I could sacrifice for others. That loyalty meant bleeding for people who didn't care about my well-being. They called it family, but it was never love. It was business. A one-way transaction where I paid and they received. The most dangerous lie wasn't about fake documents. It wasn't the stolen money. It was the lie they told me since I was a child. Good boys always look after their families. No, good sons don't become hostages. Good boys don't become financial accounts. Good sons don't lose themselves to people only interested in consuming. They thought cutting me off would destroy me. Instead, cutting them off rescued me. Email I ever received from my mother is still unopened in my inbox. "We didn't raise you to be so cold." And maybe she's right, because they didn't raise me at all. I raised myself. And for years, I carried them without complaint, believing that was what love looked like. They built their kingdom on my back. When I finally stepped away, their reign crumbled. Now, I can sleep without debt collectors hunting me, without last-minute emergencies draining my funds, without fake birthday dinners that felt more like tax audits than family celebrations. I wake up, drink my coffee, and feel utterly at ease. And you know what? I'm not bitter. I'm not angry. I'm free.